Welcome back to the Raleigh Oaks Baseball Club here on OOTP 25. We have reached the end of the season after a loss in the World Series to our former team, the Los Angeles Angels, in 5 games, and now we are ready to embark upon our second offseason here as a member, or as a GM of the Raleigh Oaks. So first things first, we are seeing that Jeremy Osborne here did not meet his vesting option. He was given a second year if he could reach like 150 innings or something like that. And he just barely missed that. And he also wasn't really great in a starter role. And how was he in a reliever role? He really wasn't even good in a reliever role for us either. So as a starter, as a reliever, as just a... He didn't really serve a great role for us this year, so I doubt we bring him back. He also probably wants a decent amount of money. Okay. Maybe we do. I don't know. Well, we'll see. Obviously, we're going to go over and see how everything is going to be shaking out here, but if he wants that little amount of money, we might be able to bring him back again as like a true reliever this year, because I do think he is a very valuable arm to have in a pitching staff, especially for a team like us who doesn't really have a clear-cut rotation anywhere. But we are going to see if we can try to fix that a little bit this offseason, because I'm not opposed to just running more followers this year again, but I would at least to have a legit number 1 and 2, probably. Ideally 3, and maybe have 2 follower options, 2 bulk guys, but we would at least like to have 2 or 3 starters. And right now, I would say we have 1.5. I think Morales is a legit starter. I think Lozano proved that he can be a legit starter. And we have, I guess he's not on the IL, but Chris Jordan here is an expiring free agent. And I just don't really think he is that level of guy. Also, he's probably going to want a good chunk of change. Yes, I'm not really interested in paying Chris Jordan almost $20 million. So he's going to be walking for us. And basically, it is just Morales and Lozano, who I think are legit starter options for us. Havens, maybe. We might give Havens a legit starter chance. He was really good in a follower role for us this season. But, maybe we give him a chance to be a legit starter. Maybe he's just a follower. He's kind of on the edge of what I would consider to be a follower or starter. So we'll see. But Lozano and Morales definitely. And then the rest of the guys I think are going to be bulk guys. We also have Jaden Foskey, who does have a team option. He was awful for us, wasn't even on the postseason roster anyways, so we are absolutely not going to be bringing him back. Jaden Foskey voiding that last year of his deal. All right, so if we just take a look at what the current state of the rotation and the lineup looks like, this is just a very rough assessment of what I think are tiers of guys that we like and don't like, and guys who are going to be here and not here. So, like I said, Morales and Lozano, those are the 2 definite starters we have currently on the staff right now. Havens, we think, is either going to be a follower or a starter, but he will be in the rotation either way. And then we move to bullpen. Montiel, he was our closer this year. I'm not opposed to running him back as the closer next year. I think he's plenty fine in that role. And then we have the legit 3 of Nazario, Mendoza, and Parton here as those 3 guys. Parton was good as a Rule 5 draft pick for us last year from Houston. I think he's a solid bullpen option to have. So he's going to stay on the team. And then Mendoza, he's somebody who could possibly give you starter innings or even follower innings because he has this really good stamina. He even expects to be in the rotation. The thing about him is when you move him to a starter, he just drops down to a 45. His stuff goes down. It's not the worst profile, but I think if I was to have him as a guy getting a bunch of innings like that, I would prefer to have him either as a stopper in the bullpen or as a follower in the rotation. So I doubt we would just make him a straight-up starter. And then Nazario just definitely doesn't have the stamina to be that, but he is definitely somebody we'd like to have in the bullpen. Even though he does have injury issues, he did have a successful program last year for strength and conditioning in the development lab, and even with that, he still had acute elbow soreness for the 3rd time in his career, was it? Yes, for the third time in his career, he's not even 24. He's not even close to 24. He just turned 23, has already had acute elbow soreness 3 times in his career, and then he strained his shoulder in the playoffs. So he's got elbow and shoulder issues already, and he's 23. I mean, he's a reliever, so his value is not going to be that great, but I mean, as much as it kills me to be like, we need pitching, he might be somebody I'm looking to flip for the right price in this offseason. If there's something out there where I'm like, this is something we can't get rid of, like this is something we can't turn down, maybe. But I still would see I would still would like to see if he works in our system. And then we have like the next tier of guys. I think that all 3 of these guys could be a part of our bullpen this year. Maybe they aren't though. So like Cornejo, he is on auto-renew contract after being a free agent signing last year. I think his stuff is just too good to ignore. He did not have a good year for us at all in the bullpen last year, though. He was quite bad, honestly. The thing about him is, like I said, his stuff is just really good. Really good stuff, really good fastball cutter mix here. Lefty, you can always have lefties. He still has 2 options, so just for that, he's sticking around. But it's just a matter of if he's going to start in the big leagues or if he's going to start in AAA. And by start, I mean be on the roster, not actually be in the rotation because he's not a starter. And then I kind of view Jaimes and Jackson in the same vein here, where like Kalena Jackson was our super opener this year. On paper, really not that great of a pitcher. He has 1 option year left, and he's still making league minimum, though, so he'll probably, I would say he's going to be on the team next year, but it's just a matter if he's going to be in the, once again, is he going to be on the Major League roster to start the season, or is he going to be in AAA? His leader, high leader here, does help him. Good personality class as well. But the thing about it is, 30 stamina. Juan Jaimes is somebody who I'm like, this guy, he could give you bulk, or he could give you opener. Versatile player. And he was good with Cincinnati and like a cup of coffee. He pitched in the playoffs for us last year. That's how much we trusted him to be in the playoff bullpen. I think he's pretty good. He also has 1 more option year, so he's also going to be on the team. It's just a matter of, is he on the big league roster or is he in the minor leagues? And then these guys who are all listed as emergency starting pitchers, I kind of view as like, I would say only like Estrella. Even him, no options, not versatile. He's fragile. He could give you bulk, for sure. As a starter, he's still a 45. Did his thing go up? Okay, no, it went down. I was going to say that would be weird. But yeah, so he was a starter in AAA last year down in Spartanburg. Did pretty well, decently well. So he can give you bulk as like a follower or even like an opener or just bulk in the bullpen in altogether, but he's still young. Maybe cracks the roster, but we could probably get somebody better than him. He is a fan fave, has some really good personality class, so maybe that kind of works his way. But he also is projected to make league minimum, so that's also a positive for us. But he's somebody who, maybe he ends up on the team. More than likely he doesn't. So, like, he might get off the 40-man because if we have to send him down, we're going to have to waive and DFA him, and that's the same thing for all these guys, essentially. Luis de Jong, I think he has really good stuff, but I definitely don't view him to be that really essential at all. He also has no options, so he's probably somebody who probably even gets waived and DFA'd even before the free agency happens. And then we have Jimmy Cahill, who is on an auto-renew $2 million contract. He has 1 option year, though, so like he has really good stuff. He's another lefty. We could always use lefties. Did not do well at all for us in very, very limited sample size in the major leagues, but was really good in the AAA bullpen. So we'll probably keep him around just because he has an option, but definitely somebody who I'm not viewing as like like he's 100% going to be a part of the staff because it's up in the air. And then Gordy McEldowney is 100% just going to get waived and DFA'd because I think he has decent ratings, but once again, really no control. and he has no options. So he's just not really flexible. I prefer, as we've talked about plenty of times, I prefer bullpen guys who have a ton of options. So if they're performing well, you can easily just send them down and then call somebody back up, and you can do that as many times as you want because it just makes it easier to run a bullpen. And then all these guys who have none specified, they are all pending free agents. So like Steve Laird, pending free agent. We're not going to be paying a reliever the amount of money that he wants. 100% not happening at his age, even if he wasn't his age. We're not paying a reliever $20 million as the Raleigh Oaks. It's just not happening. This is not Anaheim. Jeremy Osborne, maybe we think about bringing him back because, like I said, he is quite cheap, and he's only 31. I might be interested in giving him like a 1-year deal. I might even give him like a 1-year deal if he wants like up to $2 million. I would be interested in that. So he might be a part of the team of next year's bullpen. We'll see. But then Cal Van Buskirk, 100% not getting re-signed. He wants double digits. We're just not giving a reliever that amount of money. And then Chris Jordan, like I talked about, we're not giving him the amount of money he wants. And then Josh Elder, he was good in the bullpen for us last year, but he's getting up there in years. He'll be like 33 by the time the season starts. And he wants like $4 million, multi-year deal. I'm not really interested in giving that to him. It's kind of teetering on the edge of what I would give a reliever, but I think we could easily get a profile like this for much cheaper than he wants. And then on the hitting side of things, this is the side where I really don't think there's going to be too many changes because I feel like we pretty much have our team set. Ignore this lineup. This is all just based on the order I put them in here. But the actual positions, catcher through DH here, this is how I think things are going to shake out. Aiden McCarthy, definitely going to be our starting catcher next season. I highly doubt we upgrade from him. He's just, he's perfect. He's young. He's controllable. He's in that spot. He was good for us. Obviously sucked ass in the playoffs, but he was good enough to where he's probably going to have that role for us again next season. Steve Griffith might be on the team next year as well as a backup. We'll have to see. And then first base, it's going to be Juan Ramirez again. Didn't put up the greatest season of all time, but it was his first year in the big leagues. I think he's going to be a legit player for us, so he's going to be our first baseman next year. Devon Lias is somebody who right now is like looking on the outside looking in, and because of that, he's somebody where I'm like, honestly, we might be able to flip him in the offseason here, try to get a pitcher. Him and Duval Esprit are both guys who I think we could flip for pitchers. Lias, just because he doesn't really have room on the roster, and we have plenty of guys who can play first base. I don't really like having a guy on the roster whose entire roles, he's just the backup first baseman, and that's all he does, and that's basically what Lias would be. I do think he is a good player, but we just don't have room for him, and we could use some pitching depth. So him and Esprit, because Esprit obviously plays a 60-grade shortstop, and that's obviously valuable. He's a good player. I think he would start on plenty of teams. We just have a really, really good infield. Ortega, obviously, not moving from second base. Olejar is either second or third. He could even give you a 60-grade shortstop potentially. And then Mike Rubin is a 65-grade shortstop. He's the starter at shortstop. And then I just think that Jared Hartley is more valuable as a lefty off the bench, as opposed to Esprit, who's fragile. He's a right-handed hitter, and he's projected to make 4.4 in arbitration this year, whereas Jared Hartley is projected to make 2.4. So, cutthroat business here, folks. And he also gives you 65-grade second base, third base, and then 60-grade shortstop with the potential there. But, he gives you somebody who could play decent shortstop. He does expect to be a starter, but after the year he put up for us last year, and not going to be a starter for us. He's going to be the main backup infielder with these guys all starting. But, Jared Hartley has put up a season like this in his career, so who knows? He could very well easily tap into that at some point if we do need that. Hopefully, this was just a fluke, because that's his first 2 years in the big leagues. He was a good hitter. He was god-awful for us last year. He was hurt quite a bit. He had some nagging injuries. He had 4 injuries: strained groin, hamstring soreness, quadriceps soreness. a bunch of nagging stuff, but hopefully he's able to... he also had a bruised ankle. Hopefully he's able to not have that this season. Also realizing that the reason why he did not play a full season in 2038, his first rookie year, was because he ruptured his MCL. I just figured that they called him up late in the season that year. No, turns out he ruptured his MCL. But yeah, I just think he's cheaper than Esprit, or he obviously is cheaper than Esprit. He's more valuable as a left-handed hitter off the bench as well, and just also gives you that same versatility to play in the infield. So I think Esprit and Lias are both guys we're going to trade here in the offseason to pick up some more pitching. And then the outfield, I think Nesty Rojas is going to move to left field because that's just his best position. He only has 45 arm. We expect him to be a very key part of our team here. And then Griego is going to play center field again, because he's a 60 grade center fielder. He put up a 6 ZR there, and that's plenty good enough when you have this type of bat, especially. I mean, that's good enough anyways. So, Luis Griego, absolutely going to be our center fielder next year. And then in right field, I think we're going to give that job to Alfredo Medina. Switch hitter, spent all last year in AAA tearing things up. Never really got a chance in the big leagues. This year, we're going to give him a chance in the big leagues. He's got an 80 grade arm. He's a 60 grade right fielder. I think he's going to be a weapon for us in that corner spot. And then I think Chris Risher is going to stick around as the backup outfielder. Backup corner, we might give him some center and spring training to make that more versatile as well. But he has no options, but he's a lefty bat off the bench. He was good for us this year, put up a 3 WAR. He is making league minimum again. Still not arbitration eligible. So it's just kind of a no-brainer for me that he's going to stick around and be a backup outfielder for us this year. And then Yakel Cooperman, probably also going to be on the roster because he has that really, really good defensive capability and then also the speed profile. If this gap power and this power and eye develop for him and even some more of this, he might end up being a starting center fielder at some point, and maybe we move Griego to right field. Griego doesn't really have an arm either. Either Griego or Rojas in right field, and then Cooperman starts in center, and then Medina's the backup, and then Risher gets pushed down, but we need Cooperman's bat to develop for me to be confident about that, because right now his bat is not good enough to be a center fielder, everyday guy for us when we have somebody like Griego already in front of him. I should also mention that we are probably going to look to lock up Griego, Nesty Rojas as well. Honestly, I don't know about it. We just have so many good young players here. Like Nesty, he's a corner outfielder, but he's one of our best players. So I would not be opposed to locking up Nesty long term. I definitely want to lock up Griego long term. Somebody like Ruben, maybe not quite yet. Maybe give it to me for a few more seasons, and then we'll see. Oliar, probably same deal, but I mean, he's really good. He's really good. He's durable as well. We already locked up Ortega last offseason to just a basically robbery of a deal. I'd like to see it a bit more from Ramirez, but I would not be opposed to locking him up long-term with this type of potential as well. I'd probably want to see it for one more season, though, to be honest. But, yeah. It's we got a lot of really young, really cheap talent in our starting roster. Oh, I didn't even mention Duhan. Duhan, he's going to be our DH again. It just makes sense. He started coming on towards the end of last season. He was phenomenal in the playoffs for us. Chris Duhan, he's all bat, no glove, but he's really good. So Chris Duhan's going to be our DH this year again. And then I should also mention that Luis Tapia is an interesting backup infielder we have. He's obviously not as good as our other guys, but he's interesting enough to keep around, was really good in AAA for us. Has options, one option for next season, so he's at least worth keeping around for next season, and then maybe, who knows, maybe next offseason we try to flip him or something. But for now, he's on the 40-man. And then Bogliolo, whatever his name is, this right-handed power bat with a huge swing and miss, can play some corner outfield and some first base. He was hitting home runs in AAA last year. Did not strike out too much either, which is good to see. The thing about him, he has no options, though. So I think he's a good player, but he's also somebody we might look to flip here at the deadline because, I don't know. I just think that we could get something for him. Maybe we stick with him, but I don't know. I think I'd prefer to have Risher as the backup corner outfielder with Cooperman as the other guy who can give you center and also in the corner, because Bogliolo, midnight here, is just not really that good of a corner outfielder. He's like okay in left, I guess. And then his bat is just entirely pop. He's not going to walk. He has no eye. He's not going to like give you a bunch of singles either. He strikes out a ton. It's basically just he'll make contact and he'll hit a bunch of home runs, but he's going to be severely limited because he has nothing else to his game. Instead of being like a Schwarber, Joey Gallo at his best type hitter, he's more of like a Bobby Bradley. Also just now seeing that Steve Griffith is projected to get 1.9 in arbitration, and he has no options, so Steve Griffith will not be coming back next year, I don't believe so. And then Sergio Figueroa is not coming back as well. He's also somebody we're going to try to flip here for pitching because, once again, he's just like a backup outfielder. He doesn't have a spot as a backup corner anymore. You know, he served them well in the years before we got here, but he's on the outside looking in now. So Figueroa is somebody we're going to try to swap for some pitching. Sweetland's on the outside looking in. I doubt we can get much for him, but we will try. And, yeah. Also Esprit, like we talked about. And Montiel and Hartley are guys we are going to give arbitration to, or we're going to see if we can sign them for a little bit less than their arbitration. But the rest of these guys, trade bait. Alrighty, folks, we are here taking a look at the player development lab. We have entered our 8 selections into the lab here. First one is Juan Trujillo, who I forgot to mention as a possible starting pitcher for us this season. Right-hander, who was a 12th round pick of theirs in 2036. I mean, the old GM really hit on this one somehow. This guy looks like he could be really good. We need this changeup to develop. We need this control to develop. We need the stuff to develop. You know, he still has a bit of a way to go. But if he can stay healthy and if he can develop this stuff, he looks like he could be really good as a starting pitcher. The thing is, we need him to stay healthy, so we are throwing him in the development lab for a strength and conditioning program to see if we can get this fragility up to normal. Then we're also throwing Alfredo Medina in for generating bat speed, see if we can tap into this 65 potential, possibly even get a Juan Padilla-style bump and get the potential boosted as well. That would be huge if we could make this switch hitter an absolute menace. Just get that 80-grade arm to go with an even more insane power bat than he's already got. And then we threw in Eric Oliar as well for some generate bat speed, see if we can tap into some of this power potential as well. Then we did Yaikel Cooperman, who has a bunch of gap power potential we would like to tap into, which could pair well with this very good speed profile of his. And then we decided to do something a little bit different. Usually, we do this strength and conditioning program to try to get guys like this who are already fragile back up to normal. So I just figured, let's get out ahead of ourselves here. And our 2 long-term superstars here, Edgar Ortega and Luis Griego, they're both normal injury proneness. Neither of them have had very long, like insane injuries or anything like that, I don't think. He's had a bit, so he's probably more prone to possibly becoming fragile if he gets hurt again, but we're going to see if we can try to get these guys up to durable or improve even like normal bordering on durable. Do any sort of improvement, get out ahead of it rather than waiting until they already become injury prone. Let's see if we can, establish them to be durable before it happens. So we're doing that with our 2 stars, investing in our stars, and then we are also taking Wilson Morales, and we're going to try to improve his pitch movement. He's got 65 movement here, potential. See if we can get that up, maybe even get a potential boost there as well. Make him be an absolutely nasty, just limit bats, limit solid contact sort of pitcher. The control's never going to be there for him, so let's see if we can possibly just make it so where he either misses bats or he makes it to where, like, if you do make contact, it's just a little dribbler to third base. And then for the final spot, we went with Jake Gamma, who is a utility guy, mainly an infielder. I guess he can play all over the place. Utility guy, right-handed bat, American-Brazilian guy who was a 9th-round pick in 2034, 24 years old, almost 25. He has been, 2 years ago, he was really good in Honolulu. Last year, he didn't really do too much. I think he got hurt a little bit. No, he didn't get hurt. I guess he just didn't really play that much. But yeah, I think this guy's bat profile is interesting. This reminds me of Juan Padilla. If we could get a Juan Padilla-style boost to his power here, that would be fantastic. Makes him a much, much more interesting of a player. I already think he's interesting, but if we can get that power boost, that would be fantastic. So that's what we're going to go for here with Jake Gamma. He is in that last spot for Generate Bat Speed. It's now time to take a look at the league news. The National League MVP this season was Hyo Schultz of the Chicago Cubs, the man who just broke on the scene last year. This was his first full season in the big leagues. Led the league in WRC plus, home runs, ribbies, average OBP, slugging OPS. Very deserved MVP for the Chicago Cubs. First baseman, second place was a Rays player, Ernesto Romero, their shortstop. Looks to be quite a good player. And then number 3, Nesty Rojas. His 6-4 season gets him a top 3 finish in the National League MVP. Love to see it. We also had Edgar Ortega get a decent amount of votes. He finished in the top 10 for the voting as well. And then even Luis Griego in his rookie season gets some MVP votes as well. And holy crap, on the American League side of things, the Los Angeles Angels' Ernesto Pimentel wins Cy Young and MVP. That is crazy. I'd imagine Cy Young and MVP. Second place for the MVP was the shortstop Juan Fuentes they traded for. So they win the World Series and they get the MVP and Cy Young. Pretty insane year for the Los Angeles Angels. Whereas the National League Cy Young winner was Jeremy Fisher of the Tampa Bay Rays. I'd imagine this is pronounced Fisher. I doubt it's Fisher. It's probably Fisher. But yeah, insane look on this guy. 80 grade starter, ground baller, a shit ton of teal and blue on this profile. 7 WAR, a 9.8 R WAR, a 65 FIP minus, a 205 ERA, a sub 1 home run per 9. Former second overall pick. Crazy pitcher. Picks up his first Cy Young award. Our manager does not win Manager of the Year. That goes to the Detroit Tigers manager. And then the American League Manager of the Year was once again Ivan Wilson. I believe that is the third time he has won the award. And then the National League Rookie of the Year was Luis Griego. So we do get ourselves a solid award there. That's the first time we've actually won the Rookie of the Year in this save. Between us and the Angels, obviously. And then Griego just gets the first one that we have, so fantastic season. We've also offered him extension, which we will be getting into once he signs that. And then we also had Juan Ramirez and Eric Olear get votes in the top 5 as well. And then on the Silver Slugger side of things for the National League, Edgar Ortega, second base Silver Slugger, and then in the outfield, center field, Luis Griego, and right field, Nesty Rojas. We had 3 Silver Sluggers on this year's team. We even had Wilson Montiel finish top 3 in reliever of the year. The winner goes to Jake Van Orden, who was that insane guy at the back end of the Atlanta Braves bullpen. And then just to have the cherry on top of Nesty Rojas' great season, he was our sole Gold Glove winner in right field. Wins the Gold Glove in right field, and now this year, he's going to move to left field. Alrighty, folks, we have reached the end of the offseason. We are geared up and ready for the 2041 campaign, but before we do that, we have to get into what happened here in this offseason. So first things first, here in the offseason, we did indeed make a bunch of trades for a bunch of pitchers. The first one was we sent Luis Bogliolo, whatever his name is, the guy who we can't say his last name, to the Tampa Bay Rays. He's still in the division. We sent him there, along with just a kind of like a interesting enough prospect. You know, he's got a decent bat. The glove isn't really anything too much. I wasn't really worried about losing this guy, so we sent him along in the trade to sweeten the deal and get it done. And in return, we got Josh Hofer, who is going to be a part of our big league rotation this season. From Rutgers, baby. On the banks. From New York. New York. Going down to Piscataway, but Josh Hofer here in our rotation. Decent enough ground ball pitcher, has a bunch of different pitches. Had a really good season, or not really good, but solid season for the Tampa Bay Rays last season. Now he's going to be in our bullpen. And then we also picked up Daniel Cardoza as a part of this deal. He was a starter when we traded for him. I think he's much better suited to be a reliever. I think he could be a very nasty multi-inning reliever. He's a fan fave, has a really good personality class, has some good stuff, good movement, 3 good pitches, slider, changeup, sinker. Hasn't really ever performed in I guess he went to Tampa last year at the deadline. Hasn't really ever performed too much in the big leagues. Has been mostly a reliever and has had most of his success in the bullpen. So the Marlins knew that he was a reliever. We're going to have him in our bullpen this season. We'll see how that goes. Then we also did indeed extend Jeremy Osborne to a 1-year $2,500,000 contract. Just a 1-year thing. He'll be a part of our bullpen once again. Then we made a couple other trades. One of them being Luis Montenegro, who was a on the outs corner outfielder, was never really going to have a spot on our roster, so we decided to ship him off to somebody else. Did we send him to Seattle? Was that where we sent him? Yes, it was. We sent him to Seattle, so they still have him, and in return, we got a controllable reliever, making league minimum. He's on our staff right here. Mike Connors, right-hander, extreme ground ball guy, 3 good pitches, 55 stuff and 55 movement. Love to see it. He has an option also, so decent pickup on my part. If I do say so myself, we get a reliever who has an option, and we had an outfielder who has no options and was not going to be on the big league team. Then the other trade we made was Sergio Figueroa and Duvall Esprit sent to the Cincinnati Reds for a package of 2 pitchers. I tried to get a couple other guys from them I was interested in, but this was the best we could do. Esprit and Figueroa just really didn't have as much trade value as you would hope. But we did manage to package them together for Bobby Harlow, who at the time, when we traded for him, was a 50 potential. He was a 50 potential reliever. You can see here, last year he had a bunch of pluses last season. He improved a bunch. It's only showing him as a starter here, but as a reliever, he had a 50 potential. His stuff looked very good. He looked much better than he does right now. He still looks fine right now, but he looked better than he does at the moment, rather. And that is because he had one of those go to see the guy in India storylines in the offseason. And of course he came back and was like, I don't know if baseball's my priority anymore. So he's going to be in AAA for us to start the season. Hopefully he pitches well, even though that happened. But a bit disappointing. And then the other guy we picked up in the trade was a 22-year-old who was also in AAA to start the season. 45 potential starter. I think he's probably more of a bulk guy / multi-inning reliever, but, still useful. Has all of his option years, so it was an easy decision to pick this guy up, have him in AAA. He's a part of the depth in our organization. I should also mention that we traded Steve McDonald, who was an interesting enough bat, really good contact, really good eye, but the thing is he has no position. He can't play the outfield. He can't really play first base. He doesn't have enough power to be like a only bat, no glove guy. So I just felt like he wasn't going to be on our team. He would have had to been added to the 40-man roster to keep him from not getting taken in the Rule 5. So we decided to just trade him to the Seattle Mariners. In return, we got a shortstop prospect who can play a bunch of really good infield for us. Decent enough bat, switch hitter Australian, 70 range, good personality class. He's in AAA to start the season as well. And then once free agency started, we basically had 2 plans. One was to get a catcher to back up Aiden McCarthy, maybe spot him some starts here and there, but for the most part, back him up. We picked up 2 of them. One is in AAA, one is in the big leagues. And the one in the big leagues is Billy Noble. He is a captain personality class, very good defensive catcher, has a decent little pop there too. Veteran, captain, decent captain backup guy to have on your team. Pretty self-explanatory, very cheap 1-year deal. And then our third catcher, who is in AAA, is old friend Steve Hagge. Spent last season with the Chicago White Sox, did not perform well at all, but now this year he is back with our organization, and he's just in AAA, going to be doing his thing down there. But then the big move that we made was we picked up Jake Graham. We made a swing here in this offseason. This is down to high. This was a 70 when it was very high. I don't know if he's taken, I guess he has. I guess he took a hit in January, that's just fantastic, but still very good. This was a 70 when we signed him, as you can see, 70-70 at the end of last season. This scouting report is still the same, says he may be an overlooked ace. Coming off a 5-WAR season with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Before that, he spent a good chunk of change with the Miami Marlins, had 3 very good seasons for them. I don't think he's going to quite repeat this, but if we can get a consistent 3 teetering on 4 WAR for Jake Graham, we are going to take that. I should also mention that we have his strategy set to his hook is much slower, so we're going to see if we can get some of these higher innings pitch totals rather than doing the thing where we always try to have a quick hook. I'm basically trying to remedy the problem. It's not so much a problem, but we leave the Angels and immediately Ernesto Pimentel wins the Cy Young because they just unleash him to throw 200 plus innings every year. I think we could do a better job of giving our aces an opportunity to throw a bit more innings. So Jake Graham, we're going to give him that opportunity here this season in Raleigh. As far as the contract goes, it's a pretty penny, but we have a lot of money to spend, and we're not really spending it on anybody else at the moment. And I don't think it's too crazy. It's 40.5 for the first 3 seasons, then it drops down to 38, then it drops down to 35, and then it's 30 for the team option year, and that's only his age 34 season. So it's not like we're paying him deep into his 30s here. I think he'll still be a very productive pitcher for this entire contract. At least that's what the hope is. We also picked up Mr. Andres Betancourt here, or Betancourt, in the Rule 5 draft from Arizona. I just thought he was a very solid reliever available in the Rule 5 draft, so we decided to take him. He's got good stuff, 3 good pitches, 50 movement, 55 control. Pretty self-explanatory. He's a part of our bullpen. We also took a swing on Juan Salazar here just to see if possibly he could make the team, but he did not make the team, so we've returned him to the Angels. And then I totally forgot to mention that we did indeed extend 2 other players, or 2 players, I should say. Luis Griego, he is extended through his age 32 season, which is 2050. That is a 10-year extension, I believe it was we offered him. All the arbitration years are a little bit lower than what he wanted, and then at most we're paying him $22.5 million for the final year of that contract. I think it's a pretty big bargain for Luis Griego, who we think is going to be a very, very good player here for a long time in Raleigh, capitalizing on his 4-WAR season he had as the Rookie of the Year in 2040. And then we also did indeed extend Nesty Rojas through 2047. He's a bit older because he didn't debut until he was 25 or whatever in 2039, but still a very, very good player. Obviously won a Gold Glove and a Silver Slugger this past season in 2040, and we extended him through 2047. A bit more expensive, but like I said, he's a bit older, a bit farther into his career. So we were able to lower it as much as possible. We were able to get a little bit of a discount for his arbitration years, and I think we bought out 2 or 3 free agent years. He was already projected to get quite a bit in arbitration, so it's not like we're saving too much, but we obviously want Nesty Rojas around on this team. We have him signed through his age 32 season. Getting up there in the 30 millions here for the final 2 years of the deal, but I think he's a very productive player, and he's going to be pretty good through the entirety of this contract, if I had to guess. Now, as you can also see, he's currently going to be starting the year on the IL with a hamstring strain, which is very unfortunate. He got that in spring training, so we'll get into what the actual team is looking like. So, the lineups here against righties and lefties are basically the same thing. There's just a very slight backup change in left field for each of them. But for the most part, it is Edgar Ortega is going to be leading things off at second base. Luis Griego playing left field, hitting second. Chris Duan DHing. Juan Ramirez at first base in the cleanup spot. Eric Olear in third base. Alfredo Medina playing right field. Mike Rubin at shortstop. Yaikel Cooperman getting the start in center field, and then Aiden McCarthy is our catcher. Cooperman did improve quite a bit this offseason, so we are excited to see what he can do for us. He might even get a starting opportunity depending on how he does these 4 weeks that Rojas is out. If he's cooking, we're going to let him keep playing in center field, and we'll probably have Griego in left and Rojas in right, and then like Medina will be like a play as much as possible in as a bench guy / DH sort of player. And I'm kind of hoping that Cooperman does cook, because this defense in center field is absolutely what we ideally have on this team. As far as the bench players go, Billy Noble is the backup catcher, Jared Hartley is the backup infielder, and then Chris Risher is our backup outfielder for the most part. And then we also have Amari Killings up, because both Hartley and Risher are left-handed bats, so we have Amari Killings up as a right-handed bat off the bench for us. He's pretty decent against both sides, though, so he'll get some time against both as a bench bat. While on the pitching side of thing, this is what we are going to be rocking with here. The rotation 1-2-5 is Jake Graham in that ace spot, Wilson Morales, Jorge Lozano, Josh Hofer, the Rutgers University man, and then it's Amari Collar, folks. We brought him back last year. He was on a minor league deal in AAA Spartanburg, and look at these numbers. The guy put up a 4 WAR, a 5 RWAR in AAA, great ERA+, great FIP-. He was really, really good. So I was like, hey, he's no longer extreme fly ball. He's 33 years old. He still wants to play. He's got basically the same ratings as Dave Havens at this point, who had a really bad spring and off season. Collar's coming off this really good season, so let's roll with him. Collar is our bulk man follower in that 5th starter spot. Juan Jaimes is going to be the opener in that role. I might put him as a void high leverage, but no, we'll leave him like that probably. But yeah. So that is our follower situation. Amari Collar in the 5th starter spot as the bulk man. And then in the bullpen, it is Wilson Montiel as the closer, with a double-barreled stopper setup of Jeremy Osborne and Santiago Mendoza. And then we have 2 use-more-often relievers in Juan Nazario and Andres Betancourt. There's no H in his name, both as use-more-often high-leverage secondaries. And then we have Mike Connors, Juan Jaimes, and Daniel Cardoza as the other middle relievers. We'll also probably throw Mike Connors here as a long relief role to get that as a secondary option, because he has 50 stamina. He can pitch those bulk appearances when we need somebody to do that. I'm tempted to put Jaimes on use left, avoid high leverage or something, just so he mainly gets used as an opener, because we don't want to run into a situation where it gets the Collar's start and Jaimes pitched like 2 days in a row out of the bullpen. But we'll probably just leave it how it is right now and see how it goes. And then if we have to change that, we will. But that is what we are rocking with here in the rotation, bullpen, and lineups here to start the season. Just a quick little look at how the programs went in the development lab. We did not really have too many successes here this offseason, but the ones that did improve were pretty significant. So like Trujillo did not improve his durability. Medina did not improve his power. Oliar did not improve his power, but Cooperman, huge improvement on his gap power. His potential and the current gap both went up as we saw his page. He's looking like a very, very solid player now. Griego and Ortega, unfortunately, did not improve their durability, but Wilson Morales did improve his current movement. As you can see, he's got some 65 movement now with a 70 home run suppression. Hopefully that's going to pay some big dividends for us this season in the rotation. And then, unfortunately, Jake Gamma had a poor generate bat speed program to where his avoid K went down. So he went from being like a useful player to being like, I don't know if he really has a future here. Then for the second set of programs, Chris Duhan, we tried to make him learn a new position. He did not do that. It was a poor program, but fortunately nothing negative happened. Also, they were trying to make him shift to center field. I just figured they would make him learn first base, but they were like, no, let's try to make him learn center field. No wonder why it was a poor program, but weird. Cooperman, we threw him in for base stealing technique. He did improve that as well. He's got that 75 across the board here in the base running. No improvement to Griego's defense in center field. Figure that was worth a shot to go for. Medina did improve his defense in right field, though, so that's good to see. Nesty Rojas improved his base stealing technique. Ortega did not improve his second base. Will Caffin did not improve his shortstop. And then Amari Killings had a poor program in left field. But fortunately, there were no negative changes. And then just taking a quick look at the preseason predictions here for the 2041 campaign. The Montreal Expos are actually projected to win the American League Metro Division. That would be pretty sick if both us and the Expos get in the playoffs this season. I believe that would be the second time in Expos history that they've made the playoffs. It would be. They've only made it one time. They won 92 games in 2036. I remember that year. I think they got first rounded, but they have not made it since then. So we're rooting for the Expos to get into the playoffs here. But the Mets and the Orioles and even the Yankees are not really predicted to be slouches either, so it could be a tough Metro division. The Dodgers are projected to absolutely steamroll in the Pacific Division with 102 wins, with the D-backs. Angels also projected for 90 wins behind them. Old friends Kurt House and Ernesto Pimentel are some of the best pitchers in the American League. And then also Jorge Cerna, who I guess the Angels signed this offseason from Colorado, from Oakland. He was with Oakland for a season, hit 38 home runs in Oakland, led the league in slugging, and now he is on the Angels. But then on the National League side of things, the Toronto Blue Jays are projected to run away with the Great Lakes Division, 98 wins. Twins, Cubs, Brewers all projected for 80 wins behind them. And then in the Southern Division, it is the Braves, Royals, and us all projected to win 90-plus games, 93 for the Braves, and then 92 for us and the Royals. So could be a tight finish here in the Southern Division, just like it was last year. We had to beat up the Rays by 1 game. Once again, no respect for our hitters. We had the best offense in baseball last year. You would think Ortega and Rojas would be in here, but they're just not for whatever reason. But we do actually have top pitchers. We have Wilson Morales listed as one of the top pitchers in the National League. Somehow, Jake Graham is not listed in this bunch, but we'll see how that goes. I'm also just now realizing that maybe Ortega is not listed there because his contact went down. And his power too, or was his power always 45? But like the gap in the eye is still there, but his bat just disappeared. This offseason, I didn't even realize this, but I guess his contact went from a 60 to a 55, and his power went from a 50 to a 45. Everything went down 5. And then his contact went down in February again. And then his potential contact went down in April. So now he's just a 50 contact guy with good gap and good eye. What the hell?